Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight, 3 soldiers have been killed in action and 3 were injured during a gunfight with terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district today. The encounter started after terrorists ambushed 2 army vehicles passing through Dera Ki Gali in Rajouri's Poonch region at 3:45 this afternoon. This is the second major encounter in the region in a month. 8 officers and men have been killed here in a month's time, in that period, in what is quite clearly the region's new hotbed of terrorism, perhaps India's new hotbed of terrorism. Next up on the programme, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has called the Enforcement Directorate summons in connection with the Delhi liquor policy case illegal and politically motivated. For the second time, he's defied the Enforcement Directorate summons and instead left on a 10-day meditation retreat to an undisclosed location. Should Kejriwal be questioned, particularly at a time when his colleague Manish Sisodia has been refused bail and the agencies claim to have uncovered a money trail? Also on this program, I'll be joined by Dr. Randeep Guleria as we look at the new sub-variant of COVID, which now appears to be spreading in the community. Is it time to mask up? That's a key question that we'll be looking at. And at 9:30, in an interview to NDTV, Atul Keshav, one of the key US diplomats who's really built up the India-US relationship over the last decade plus, says quite clearly that the Pannoon episode may be behind us. He agrees with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. 1 or 2 incidents cannot take away from the overall relationship. But first, the big story, the terror attack which is taking place in Jammu and Kashmir, in the Poonch area. There is an encounter which continues as Indian soldiers try and eliminate these terrorists who are responsible for an ambush in which 3 Indian soldiers have been killed in action, 3 others have been injured. We don't know the condition of those injured. Before I go across to General Satish Dua, the former Chief of Integrated Defence Staff, somebody who spent a lot of time actually working in this area as a commanding officer and as a brigade commander, brigadier, I want to go across to my colleague Nazir Masoodi for the very latest ground situation. Nazir, what are you hearing?
Well, Army has cordoned this whole area, but going after them during the night is just not easy because the way we have seen the militant pattern in this particular area, they have more often than not lured the army into their trap. Be it the last encounter in Kalakot, where army launched an operation, eventually really landed in a trap and in which 5 soldiers lost their lives, including 2 young captains. And today there was an ambush on 2 army vehicles, 1 gypsy and army truck in Dera Ki Gali area in Surankot area of Poonch district. 3 soldiers, according to the army, have been killed. 3 others have been injured. These are initial info. This is the initial information army has shared. We may expect some update tomorrow as well, how all this happened, and it appears that militants have used steel core bullets against these bulletproof vehicles. You can see this army gypsy, bulletproof gypsy, in which 1 army officer was traveling. There were other soldiers also. They were targeted, and the pictures tell a story how close it was, and it is a very difficult area.
Right.
Yeah,
we're losing that signal with you, Nazir, but thanks for sharing those details. Let me quickly go across to General Dua, who's with us now. General Dua, you've served extensively in this area. Basic question, why has this area become a hotbed for terrorism?
Thank you, Vishnu. First, may I use this medium to express my condolences to not only the families of the slain soldiers, but also the units of these soldiers, because units are also like a family for us. It's a very sad day for me. It's a sad day for the country. Allow me, Vishnu, to just give us, I'll take a minute to explain to the viewers what is, when you said, why this has become a hotbed, let me explain the terrain in this place. Pir Panjal divides the North Kashmir, Kashmir area from the rest of the Poonch Rajouri region, the Jammu region as it's called. Now, this area is just to the south of the Pir Panjal. There are offshoots of the ranges, mountain ranges coming down southwards towards Rajouri Poonch, and they actually culminate in the Rajouri Poonch plains. Those mountains may not be as high as Pir Panjal, but they are very high mountains and covered in the lower reaches. Higher reaches have snowfall, the lower reaches are covered with thick forest. The area that we're talking about today, DKG or Dera Ki Gali, is one such area. It lies in middle of Poonch and Rajouri towns, and it has a very winding road and is covered with the thick forests in the area that the ambush has taken place. Why it has become a hotbed of late is, as now this is my take, as things are improving in Kashmir after over the last 4 years, as tourists are thronging, as it is become, I think it is becoming increasingly difficult for the terrorists to operate, especially in the built-up areas, in towns and in hamlets, etc. So we are seeing a shift towards the south as far as Kashmir is concerned, south of Kashmir. We saw that incident that happened in Kokarnag, where we lost 5 brave hearts. That is on the northern face of Pir Panjal range. But if you take the Pir Panjal range as a whole, the Poonch Rajouri area is at the southern face, and this is the northern face. So, not finding enough sanctuaries or enough support that side, they are coming on to Pir Panjal range itself. Um, Now, as winter approaches, passes are getting closed in Kashmir, and that is the reason why the terrorists are activating the areas to the south of Pir Panjal, where the snowfall is comparatively lesser and only on the higher reaches. As I understand, as I gather from open source intelligence, that there are between 20 and 30 residual terrorists in the area of Poonch and Rajouri. Uh, if, and now that they are not able to do much in the north, in Kashmir area, it is here that they're seeking to make a point.
Right.
They want to keep the pot boiling. And that's
General, let me
why
ask you this.
such ambushes are taking place.
Got it. General, are we suffering a disproportionately high number of casualties?
Um, in an ambush, the one who lays an ambush has an advantage. They have the initiative. And they have actually fired first in an ambush because Kokarnag also we saw a similar pattern where there was an operation launched by the army and RR put together and the police. When we launched an operation, we went on a specific input and on a specific intelligence report of presence of terrorists in a certain area. So sometimes sources plant information with an intent to ambush. I mean, if the source is compromised. So something like that perhaps may have happened here, where the source is compromised, and when in an ambush, the one who lays the ambush seizes the initiative, and then the other side takes the hit, and that's what seems to have happened over here.
General, these terrorists aren't these sort of ordinary terrorists who hit and run. They are in there for the fight. They appear to be extremely well trained. Just to set an ambush is not something which is easy. In your mind,
Yes.
are these border action teams of the Pakistani forces? Are these terrorists perhaps with experience in fighting in Afghanistan? Are these Pakistani army regulars? Who are these people?
Today, firstly, let's be very clear. It is a proxy war being perpetrated from the other side. Ever since things are getting better in Kashmir, and more so now after Article 370 has actually buried a long gone, a dead act, the other side is actually chagrined and frustrated. They're looking for means to do something like this. The events will unfold later, and we will know later whether these were actually border action teams, because this is a border area where we can't put it beyond some very highly motivated squads being told to enter inside. Whether or not they are border action team or highly motivated terrorists remains to be seen. But the Pakistan hand is very clear to see in such cases to keep the pot boiling somewhere or the other. Let not a feeling of normalcy set in. In fact, I would say it is to instill a little fear in the minds of people.
All right, General, thank you very much for speaking to us. Let's just
Thank
hope that those 3 soldiers who are injured do manage to get okay. I mean, that I think is the big focus now. Of course, eliminating these terrorists is something the army is trying very hard to do as we speak. We're going to move on now. to the next item on the show. The Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has called the Enforcement Directorate summons in connection with the Delhi liquor policy case illegal and politically motivated. For the second time, he's defied the Enforcement Directorate summons and instead left on a 10-day meditation retreat to an undisclosed location. Should Arvind Kejriwal be questioned is what we are looking at. I'm joined by Priyanka Kakkar, Chief National Spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, and R.P. Singh, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Aditi Phadnis, the Senior Editor, also will be joining us in a moment. Priyanka Kakkar, let me come to you first. What is Arvind Kejriwal's strategy? At some stage, he has to turn up and be questioned, or does he intend to not go to the ED at all?
Vishnu Somji, good evening to you and your viewers. We are a law-abiding party. We are law-abiding citizens. My voice is echoing. If that can be please corrected.
We'll just fix that. Yes.
Previously as well as this time, there were certain questions that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal ji had asked the ED, because the summons don't appear to be sent from the ED office. They're sent from the BJP office. The notice does not mention in what capacity is he called. Is he called as a suspect? Is he called as a witness? It does not mention is he called as an individual, or is he called as a chief minister of Delhi. So, even under the PMLA law, you cannot summon a political party. Then again, it does not, there are certain other defects in the notice, and it has very recently, in a 2023 judgment in the High Court of Rajasthan, it has been held that these anomalies that I just mentioned, they make the notice invalid. We have no problem. We will definitely attend. Let there be a proper notice. Also, what is very strange and which I must mention is, very recently, last week, Chhagan Bhujbal, who has joined the BJP, on whom there were enough ED cases, the Enforcement Directorate in the court has mentioned that the file has gone missing and they have withdrawn the case against him. Another case, which is 24 hours ago, is of the MLA in Karnataka, in whose house we all remember 8 crores we all saw. You were all banned in the media that you could not report that incident, and subsequently that matter has also been quashed and there is no case on him. So this is what is happening currently, and it is absolutely a mockery of the law, a mockery of justice.
Priyanka, let me get a reaction on that from R.P. Singh.
From the BJP. Yes.
Mr. Singh, would you like to respond to that? These cases are coming from the BJP, not from the agencies, is what she says. Also says that, once you choose to be affiliated to the BJP, all these cases against you disappear.
Vishnu, before I answer, you need to answer, because she accused you also of not reporting what she desires you to report. I don't know whether you reported or not. But you need to also answer, because she is putting you in the question, other than the BJP. So that's how Aam Aadmi Party is. They raise a lot of questions, but they don't give answers. Simple that ED has issued notice. As far Bhujbal goes, if they have anything against ED in any case, they have best of rights. They use Delhi money for Delhi exchequer money or Delhi taxpayers' money for hiring best of lawyers. They can hire best of lawyers and help their friends in other parties also, or otherwise also they can go to court against the decision of the ED. They have all the right to do that. But here in this case, 2 notices have been issued. As per my information and knowledge, third will be issued, and after third, ED can either go to court and take the order from the court, or probably arrest him otherwise. Secondly, ma'am is saying that whether he has been called as a chief minister, or whether he's been called as an individual, whether he's been called as a party boss. The liquor case is confined to the chief minister, because any decision taken with the cabinet, in which his 2 cabinet colleagues his 1 cabinet colleague in that case is already in jail, and court has refused to give bail to Mr. Sisodia. So obviously he has been called as a chief minister, but they can keep using whatever techniques and tactics they want to use under the law. They have all the right to do that, but ultimately law will catch on them.
Right.
They can't
but
escape
let me
just from this.
Come back to Priyanka for a moment. Priyanka, Manish Sisodia has been denied bail. A money trail has prima facie been established. That's what the investigators say. One of the key points the Supreme Court said while denying bail to Manish Sisodia is that there is a difference between the new profit margin in this particular liquor policy, the new one which was introduced, which is 12%, minus 5%, which was the old margin. You add 70 crores to that, which is the license fee, and as a result of all of these differences, plus the addition of that 70 crores, you end up with a windfall for the state government, which, in a quote, it is submitted would constitute proceeds of a crime and an offence punishable under the PML Act. This seems to be quite serious. Why won't Arvind Kejriwal respond potentially to questions like this?
Let me answer this in two parts, Vishnu Somji. First is that the Supreme Court said that tentatively the 338 crore, which is the profit made by 10 companies over 8 months, could be proceeds of crime. The Supreme Court very categorically completely demolished the BJP's case, which was based on Dinesh Arora's testimony. That was completely demolished in the Supreme Court. Thirdly, Vishnu Somji, this can be checked by anybody. In 2019, like today, they have bulldozed certain very draconian laws in the parliament. In 2019, through a money bill, they made certain amendments, backdoor amendments, which primarily revived an unconstitutional provision which permits the investigation agencies or binds the court to keep a person behind bar indefinitely, even if there is not a single recovery of a single rupee recovery. Not a single rupee till date has been recovered from any of our leaders, and yet we are behind bars in trial. So this is a very draconian law. You will have to appreciate this, that despite the fact that not a penny has been recovered, we are behind bars in trial. You see today what happened. Gautam Navlakha ji has been acquitted after 3 years in a UAPA case. It took 3 years, and that is what they're using these draconian laws to keep you inside,
right,
so that you can manage that perception.
No, Priyanka, I get that. You're alleging harassment, but I'm just trying to, and I know Aditi is waiting, but I wanted to ask you one more question, just based on what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said, and I quote, the DOE has relied on evidence and material, right, that a portion thereof, that is 45 crore rupees, was transferred through Hawala for the Goa election and has been used by the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, I understand you when you say that money has not been recovered, but this is the allegation. They are investigating a Hawala link as well, and they say that part of this money was spent illegally. How would you respond to this very serious allegation by the Supreme Court?
Tell me one thing. Sure, tell me one thing. So, see, this is the law. Now see what happens. In trial, you are keeping somebody behind bars when you need to prove your allegations. How is that fair? Bail is the norm, not the jail. Now, what will you do with people who are inside? You can't recover anything. Now, you've not been able to do anything. They just want to manage perception, and therefore they are bulldozing such draconian laws, either bend to their will, or they will use these laws to blackmail. Tomorrow they will do the same with businessmen, let me tell you this.
No, but Priyanka, I understand what you're saying, that jail is not the law. The law sort of typically does allow bail to take place, particularly when there is no flight hazard, etc., etc. But what I have read to you is a quote from that Supreme Court order where Manish Sisodia was actually denied bail, and they're investigating Hawala proceedings of 45 crores. So linked to Arvind Kejriwal, who we are talking about today, why would he go off to Vipassana when the ED wants to question him, presumably on this? Why not answer the question?
Vishnu Somji, we have always cooperated with investigation. Arvind Kejriwal ji has been going on these very dates for the past 25 years. His program was also public. Then again, their notice, to which we have responded today, is full of several legal inadequacies which I mentioned previously. And let them respond, let the ED respond, or let the BJP respond. Like RP Singh ji on your show mentioned that he's been called in the capacity of the Chief Minister. The notice is silent. So that is what I'm saying. The notice is
you believe
manufactured
that
in
there
their
are legal
office.
infirmities in the notice for the second consecutive time. That's what the Aam Aadmi Party believes. Even the
Yes.
first time.
Yes.
All right. Aditi, if we were
Not
just
believe, we've been advised. This is the legal, yes.
got it. Aditi, politically, does Arvind Kejriwal stand to somehow gain from the scenario, as it were, where he's seen to be a crusader fighting the BJP, is courting arrest in a sense, but chooses to carry on when he knows that at some stage, they will come to arrest him. It's just a matter of time if he chooses not to appear. Does this work to his political advantage, Aditi?
Well, at the moment, it seems to be working to his political advantage because, frankly, the BJP hasn't really got anywhere in Delhi in terms of winning elections, and Aam Aadmi Party is everywhere. But my concerns are different, and that is that if Arvind Kejriwal does go to jail, as you yourself are saying, he will. Because if he does not answer to
No,
the
I'm
summons,
saying that he'll be arrested if he doesn't appear at some stage. Of course,
So
there have
if
been
he's
cases where
arrested, he
people,
has to
chief
be-
ministers and political leaders have even on 6 occasions said they will not turn up. So there is precedent the other way as well. But I'm just
So
saying that
if he's arrested, he'll have to go to jail, right?
Right.
If he goes to jail, what happens to Delhi? What happens to the Aam Aadmi Party's government? Who heads it? I know they've been very brave and said that they will hold cabinet meetings in jail, but frankly, that's not a very workable proposition. So, in the absence of Kejriwal and in the absence of a real line of succession, and number two, I'm really not sure what is going to happen to Aam Aadmi Party, even though I have to say public sentiment is very much for Kejriwal.
yeah. RP Singh, politically, there's the legal angle, and then politically, from a Delhi standpoint, do you not believe that this is something which might end up benefiting the Aam Aadmi Party if Arvind Kejriwal is seen to be some sort of a martyr?
I'm sorry, Vishnu, it's you and Aditi who thinks everything with a political dimension or from the political prism.
I'm only asking. I'm not a politician.
You asked a question, did I interrupt you even once? When even Aditi and both you have a particular prism to see things which I can't deny. You have all the right to do that. Even I have
if
right
you're
to,
accusing me of bias, I'm not biased one way or the other. It doesn't really matter.
Sir,
to
I'm
me
not.
what point.
I'm
asking
sorry.
you
It was
whether
Priyanka Kakkar.
Arvind
It was
Kejriwal-
Priyanka Kakkar who accused you of the big bias, not me. She is on record. Please rerun that. She said you didn't show the raid on a particular person because of certain pressure. I mean, she accused you of the bias. It's not me. Please.
I'm asking you
I'm
about
saying-
Arvind Kejriwal. I'm asking you whether Arvind Kejriwal will end up being a political martyr in Delhi politics in the present scenario. How would the BJP respond to that?
Well, again, I reiterate, you can have a prism to see through things,
It's
see
not
the
a
things.
prism. I'm only
Can
asking you a
please,
question.
Vishnu, if you want me to tutor, you want me to be tutored as per I won't. So if you want me to,
tutoring? But go ahead, sir. Please answer.
That's your prism, which see Arvind Kejriwal getting sympathy or seeing as a martyr. The fact is that he has to undergo the process of law. I mean, if tomorrow it happens with me, if I have done something wrong, I hit someone on the road, I'll be prosecuted under law. I mean, I can't be above law. If I break a red light signal, I'll be prosecuted as per law. I can't say, I'm a spokesperson of the BJP or the former MLA, so you can't touch me, or I probably have to go for some doctor's visit. Law will take its own course. So, sympathy or no sympathy, this your idea or Aditi's idea, what sympathy he'll get. Recently, they tried their best to go to various areas in Delhi. Probably you would have shown that some 50 odd places in Delhi saying maybe Kejriwal, and then sort of response people gave, we all know. I mean, people booed them away and showed them the dose that we are not with the corrupt. That's the effect that's the reality on the ground. But that point aside, I mean, what happened politically, what doesn't happen politically. ED doesn't go by the political narratives built by Vishnu Som or by Aditi Fadnis.
No, I'm not building any political narrative, sir. You got angry at me and poor Aditi for no reason.
Not at all. Not at all. Please, what you said, I'm just trying to reiterate that. I mean, that can be your political...
I need to wrap this up, but let me just go back to Priyanka once. Priyanka, there is, of course, the larger issue on why Arvind Kejriwal, why it's necessary for Kejriwal to be questioned. As the Chief Minister, it is his job to be aware of all of the decisions which have taken place, and therefore the buck stops with him. That's the principal argument. Therefore, why isn't he being questioned?
Let them say this. Let them state this in the notice. Where is the objection? Why aren't
But
they
isn't
stating
that
that in the
stating the
notice?
obvious? Why else would they want to question him? He is the ultimate decider.
No, why aren't they stating this in the... It is, see, there is one thing. One is law, one is speaking what we speak in the media, one is politics of it. Now, in the law, the legality, there are certain technicalities. Let their notice be technically correct.
So that is what your entire argument rests on. At a time when the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister, the former Deputy Chief Minister has been held for a long time, that the format of the letter is wrong. When there are such serious questions, there is prima facie a money trail which has been established. The Supreme Court, in a quote which I read out to you, said that there is a possible hawala trail as well. And all you are saying at the end of the day, Priyanka, I'll let you answer, is that this letter is not properly formatted. They just want answers to questions. Why is Kejriwal not going?
I am objecting to your assertion very vehemently where you said that the Supreme Court has said there's a money trail. There is no such thing. I request you not to please say this. A BJP Pravakta saying this, I understand. Secondly, let's follow the law. Let them send it properly. But I'm telling you, this is not a legal matter because they have not been able to prove an iota of evidence after having, hounded us for so long. How we've been hounded has been in public knowledge. We've been raided so many times. We've been jailed. What kind of investigation agency is this that they can't recover a single penny? And what is happening? The MLA where 8 crores was recovered, those charges have been dropped yesterday. Chhagan Bhujbal, the ED says that the file has gone missing and they've withdrawn the case from the court. This is what is happening. You join the BJP and the file goes missing.
Okay. No, but let me again quote, I'm not saying that it's part of any Supreme Court order. It is, however, it is part of what the Supreme Court has mentioned, and the exact quote is this, Priyanka. The DOE has relied on evidence and material that a portion thereof, that is 45 crore rupees, was transferred through Hawala for the Goa election and used by the Aam Aadmi Party. I'm not saying that the Supreme Court has ruled that the DOE was correct. I'm only saying that this is something which has come up as mentioned by the Supreme Court.
That is DOE's allegation.
But since it is a serious mention, shouldn't Arvind Kejriwal answer? So just so that we are clear on that. It's not an order, obviously we've not gotten to that stage.
I am saying, see, let me also, just to put it in context, what has happened in Manish Sisodia ji's case, the DOE has given about 50,000 documents and 500 witnesses. In a law, PMLA, which says that at the stage of the bail, you must satisfy the judge that there is no wrongdoing, the onus is on you. Right. So, when the onus is on the accused, that will happen when you've gone through the 50,000 documents and 500 witnesses, which means 10 years. That is why Supreme Court said that this case will not last in the trial court for 2 minutes.
Okay, so let's see
and you must conclude the case within 6 months.
Mr. Singh, quickly, and then I'll go back to Aditi. Yeah, Mr. Singh, wrap it up, sir. Just briefly, please.
Well, they are questioning the court now. They are questioning the Supreme Court. They are saying that Supreme Court decisions are wrong. Did I interrupted you, please? They are saying what court observations are wrong. One, they are accusing you of being a BJP spokesperson when you quote the court observation.
No, but then you also accuse me and Aditi of having some sort of a prism. So that is when we as journalists know that we are doing a good job. When we've got the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP accusing us of being agents of the other side.
You got some stars by saying so and Priyanka saying so. Good, you got some stars. Good, keep those stars with you. They will help you in future debates also. But let me complete the point. So they don't believe in Supreme Court. They think that Supreme Court is doing whatever he's doing
Short
wrong.
retort.
They went to court against the PMLA case also, PMLA decisions also. Court turned them down. And also in Sisodia's case, they have tried their best. Court has denied bail. Now, they think they are above law because that's how Aam Aadmi Party came into being.
All right. The Aam Aadmi Party thinks it's above law. Aditi, last word to you. 30 seconds, please go ahead.
No, I
And
don't think
sorry,
the Aam Aadmi Party.
ma'am, they lost 7 seats last time in the parliament, and they are going to lose all 7 again this time in the parliament.
Aditi, go ahead.
So I'm not going to, argue about how many seats they lost and how many seats BJP lost in which election. The question is not that. I think the question is that I don't think the Aam Aadmi Party thinks it's above the law. The law is above all of us. It is above the BJP. It is above us. It is above Aam Aadmi Party. And I'm pretty sure that when Arvind Kejriwal is called and then arrested, he will have to respond to the law. But that doesn't mean everything is hunky-dory for the case as far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned. We don't have time. Otherwise, I would have raised some issues in the whole case, which I have serious doubts about, which do not put the Aam Aadmi Party in particularly good light. But
All right,
that's
we'll
for
leave
another
it over
time.
there. There's a lot more which does need to be discussed. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us. We're going to move on now to a big concern across the country. COVID numbers once again across India are rising. There is an uptick. There is a new variant, JN1, doing the rounds. How serious is it? I'm now joined by Dr. Randeep Guleria. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us. It seems that this might have entered, Dr. Guleria, the community, at least in some parts of the country. Is it reasonable to expect that the numbers might shoot up, while also believing that numbers shooting up doesn't necessarily mean that it would necessarily result in serious illness?
Correct. As of now, what we could say is that yes, this is a new variant. It is a variant of interest. And if you look at data not only from our country, but also what is happening in the US, Canada, and Singapore, there is a surge in the number of cases, which suggests that this variant is more transmissible. It has some degree of immune escape mechanism, and therefore more and more people are getting infected. So we will see a rise in the number of cases, but this will happen as new variants emerge and they develop some degree of immune escape mechanism to become more transmissible. What we need to be very vigilant about is that this should not translate to more hospital admissions or more deaths. So if that does not happen, then I think we will see in cases coming up and down, small waves, if I may put it that way, happening over every few months, and especially during the winter months. It's the holiday season, people will travel, they will carry the virus with them, there will be crowds, and therefore the infection will spread and cases will rise.
Dr. Guleria, is it time to mask up at least on a voluntary basis?
So I would say that especially the high risk group, the elderly, if they're traveling, if you're going to a crowded place, you should mask up. It does help you because although we know that the variant is basically causing a mild disease, we know that people who are at high risk, the elderly or those with comorbidities, can at times get a severe illness, which can lead to worsening of the comorbid condition, and that can lead to hospitalization or ICU admissions.
Doctor, you're part of the team that runs one of India's largest hospitals. Is that your big worry that, just statistically, because the numbers in India are so large, if you have a lakh plus people, for example, in the NCR region suddenly becoming unwell, statistically, a large number of them would end up being in hospital. And among them, you would get those who are comorbid and are at risk. So therefore, there is a danger of numbers of people who are seriously affected just because we are a very large country.
So I think we need to be vigilant. And like you said, our population is large. But I think we've learned a lot from the last 2.5, 3 years. And therefore, we have processes in place. The government itself has now started a process of increasing hospital beds, creating more infrastructure in case there is a surge in number of cases. So we need to be vigilant, but I don't think there's a need to panic. But I do agree that we need to have our processes in place, whether it be more beds, whether it be drugs, whether it be tracking and testing, because that is something that it's better to be prepared than regret later on.
Dr. Guleria, are the vaccines still working, and is there a case for a third booster shot, which many other countries have already administered? If not for this variant, then for anything that happens in the future.
So I think we need data for that, because currently the vaccine that we've had is basically from the Wuhan strain, and we've moved on a lot from there to different strains, and now the Omicron and sub-lineages of Omicron. So we would probably need data to see how effective is the older vaccine. And I do think that at some point in time, we will need to have a new vaccine which covers the emerging variants, as is being done across the world, that we should have a vaccine which is sort of timely to cover the emerging variants. This is what we do for influenza also. Every year we have a new vaccine, the flu shot, which covers the circulating influenza strain and gives us protection against the new strains which are circulating, whether it be influenza A or influenza B. So similarly, we would probably need to have a vaccine, a booster, especially for the elderly and the high-risk group, which provides good protection against the currently circulating strains.
Right. Just in terms of people, and I was asking this to Dr. Soumya Swaminathan yesterday, because a lot of people see these programs, a lot of people see me tweeting, and they say, Vishnu, why are you raising panic? This is just like another cough and cold. Is COVID, in this strain, just like another cough and cold? Is that how we should be looking at COVID?
So I think there are two parts. One is COVID has emerged now, and we've seen after the Omicron strain, which came in November of 2021, the cases are usually behaving like a flu-like illness, like cough and cold. But we really don't know how the virus will evolve. This is still a relatively new virus, and the virus may actually evolve into becoming something more virulent. And that is why, as of now, it is a mild illness, but we need to be very careful how it may evolve over a period of time. We don't know how this virus is going to change. And that is why, like I said, there's no need to panic, but we need to be vigilant, and we need to have a very good surveillance in terms of hospital admissions, in terms of ICU admissions, in terms of cases, to see how is this new variant behaving, and is it further mutating to cause some degree of concern.
All right, Dr. Guleria, wonderful to speak to you once again. I think your message would possibly be we all need to be alert at this stage. I think that is so important right now. Thanks very much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's time now for us to take a short break. Coming up after that, an important interview with one of America's finest diplomats to India, Atul Keshav. He's somebody who's done a lot of the hard work in building up the relationship between America and India. India and America are in a bit of a hiccup at this stage, some would suggest, with the entire Pannoon case and the handling of that particular case, particularly since there is a legal process underway in the United States. Is this just, as I mentioned, a hiccup in the overall relationship between India and the US, or do we need to look at it from a more long-term perspective? I ask him that question, find out his answer in just the next few moments. One of America's finest diplomats to have actually seen the relationship between New Delhi and Washington develop over the years is Atul Keshav. He is now president of the US-India Business Council. But his experience in having served over here in New Delhi extensively and seeing firsthand what the possibilities of this relationship really are is something which all of us have actually learned a lot from him about. It's been wonderful to speak to him in the past, to see this relationship get to where it is. And it's great to have Atul Keshav with us once again. He joins us from Washington. Thanks very much, Mr. Keshav, for being with us on this program this evening. It's a difficult time in a sense for India and the United States. There has been this entire Pannoon episode. Prime Minister Modi, in an interview to the Financial Times, has suggested that one or two incidents shouldn't perhaps take away from the expanse of the relationship. Do you believe that sends a right signal?
I saw the Prime Minister's remarks, and I think he's got it exactly right, Vishnu. If you think about it, we've actually had an amazing year in U.S.-India relations, probably the best year I've seen in my entire professional career. We had a state visit by the Prime Minister of India to the United States. We had a visit by the President of the United States to India. We had one of the most impactful joint statements I've ever seen, probably ever really, that encompasses the enormous sweep of what we're doing between our two governments, between our two peoples, between our two societies, between our business communities. So I think this is actually a year that is a high watermark in U.S.-India relations. And USIBC has also had a tremendous year. Both governments asked us to launch the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, the INDUSX Defense Platform, and also the Innovation Handshake on the margins of APEC in San Francisco. So on the premise of your question, I would say, look, in every relationship, especially one as broad and diverse and powerful as ours, there are going to be issues that come up. This happens with our closest allies around the world. It has happened with Japan, with France, with the UK, with others. And what I love about the fact that our two governments have been handling whatever issues that come up is that they have done it with maturity and tact, fully mindful of the shared strategic collaboration, the strategic economic and technological convergence between our two great democracies. And so I'm fully confident that they'll manage this in a very reasonable, mature, tactful way, because that is where our relationship has come to. It has reached a new echelon.
Do you believe that this episode is behind us, or do you believe that more might actually pan out given the fact that there is a legal requirement in the United States? There is a U.S. Justice Department investigation which is taking place. There is also the entire issue of an Indian national now in the Czech Republic who the United States wants extradited. But do you believe that despite it all, this as an issue is behind us as far as India and the U.S. are concerned?
Well, look, I can't prognosticate, but here's what I will say. I have a very high degree of confidence that in the corridors of power in Delhi and in Washington, both sides recognize the tremendous importance of our shared partnership across many different dimensions. And whatever happens in this particular matter is going to be dealt with by both governments within the context of that very broad partnership. These are dangerous times. Geostrategically, the world is shakier than it's been in a long time. I think the United States and India reach out to each other and embrace each other because we are the world's largest, most stable, most dynamic, most robust democracies. And so if you look to the east of India, toward the Indo-Pacific, where our partnership is already very well enshrined in the Quad and in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, we're already doing great work together. We have a wonderful partnership in Africa going back several years. And now, increasingly, we have a partnership, I think, forged in trust, focused on ensuring the stability of the Middle East, working with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and other friends. So whatever happens in this particular matter, it is just one matter out of 1,000 that we are working on together. And I think both governments are going to work on it with maturity and tact and a degree of mutual respect and trust.
We're in a difficult time as far as the Red Sea is concerned. The reason I bring up the Red Sea is because we are incredibly close maritime partners, India and the United States. I've personally seen this relationship evolve from one of distrust to one of immense trust over the last several years now. Do you believe New Delhi should have a bigger role in protecting international commerce through the Red Sea?
Well, absolutely. You know, India is a major maritime power. India shares our values and the values of the free world with regard to freedom of navigation and commerce. India, I think, has done a tremendous job over the decades of ensuring the ability of nations to trade in open spaces like the Indian Ocean. India patrols the Indian Ocean to ensure the safety of mariners, including anti-piracy patrols. And so India is very, very capable. And what I would say is that it's increasingly clear to me that Washington and New Delhi, Tel Aviv and Riyadh and Abu Dhabi are all seeing each other as joint partners in ensuring the stability of that entire region, including the very critical sea lanes at the Straits of Hormuz, at the Bab el-Mandeb, in the Red Sea and in the Suez Canal. And of course, so much commerce flows through those sea lanes. So I think India has a giant stake in it and would be a welcome partner.
Ambassador Keshav, one of the most ambitious programs which was actually spoken about on the sidelines of G20 was a Middle Eastern economic corridor, one which would stretch from, let's say, Mumbai in India all the way to Haifa in Israel, train lines across the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, there's the horrific war which is now taking place, Israel and Gaza. Do you believe that, unfortunately, this huge plan, which was so important for both India and the United States, besides other regional partners, is now very much on the back burner for reasons which nobody could really control?
Well, I spent the first 10 years of my career working on the Middle East, and I was actually the desk officer for UAE and Qatar back in the 9/11 era, a very transformative era in U.S. relations with those countries. And, back when I served in Morocco and when I served in that desk job and in other jobs, there were constantly these sort of disruptions to the flow of things. And this war is tragic. There's been, this act of terrorism was absolutely unacceptable and unforgivable. And so I think what we're seeing here is another one of these periodic disruptions to the overall trend lines in the Middle East. I think there's a couple things that come to mind. Number one, the countries I just mentioned are clearly reaching out to one another as partners in trying to ensure the stability of the Middle East in the face of rather sustained efforts by Iran and Russia and others to erode that stability and to disrupt it and even to change the strategic picture in the Middle East. So these countries have a shared set of interests, and therefore I think that this project will continue. It may take a little bit more time, but the strategic and economic logic of it is very clear, and so I think it certainly will continue. It's just a question of when and how it might have conditions that are propitious for it to continue.
Ambassador Keshav, when Prime Minister Modi was in the United States for the state visit, one of the most important sort of deals which was announced or agreements which was announced was related to the manufacture of jet engines in India. Do you believe that that project can pick up pace and that G414 engines, which are expected to be built in India, manufacture of that or the process leading to manufacture can actually start in a finite period of time? I ask this because there are some concerns over delays.
So, Vishnu, this is very complicated stuff. It involves a lot of high-tech components that we have to protect from our shared enemies and adversaries. And of course, our two nations are very transparent and they are democratic and they have processes that have to be respected. And so these deals are going through processes that are well established in both governments, both the General Atomics drone deal and the General Electric engine deal. What I will say is they are the absolute best technology in the world. The reliability of the suppliers and the manufacturers is unquestioned and unparalleled. And these platforms will serve the Indian people and the national defense of India for many decades to come. In fact, that engine deal may span as much as 40 years, as may the drone deal, because these are technologies and platforms that are durable. Also, this deal is done extremely transparently with full visibility by the bureaucracies and the publics and the elected officials. And of course, we have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So there's no shortcuts through this. We go through a very careful process, and it is moving along. I've been in touch with both companies. They're both proud US IBC board members, and I am confident this will go through because it has to go through. It's critical to our shared security, the security of India, the security of the Indian Ocean, India's neighborhood, and I think there's a lot of strategic compulsion driving it.
Resilient supply chains as far as semiconductors are concerned, that's a huge concern for India, also for the United States. There was a lot of talk about building up, resilient supply chains as far as semiconductors are concerned. And the US IBC would be looking pretty closely at that as well as one of the benchmarks in the economic relationship between our two sides. Where does that now stand?
Well, we've had a number of US IBC companies who were mentioned in the joint statement in helping move forward India's semiconductor ecosystem. Look, there is a compelling strategic and economic necessity that is driving this forward. India is viewed as a stable, democratic, friendly polity. It has an enormous people-to-people relationship with the United States and the other leading democracies. And for reasons that are very, very clear and compelling, it is in the national interest of the United States and free people everywhere to see that our supply chains are made more secure and more resilient following the pandemic. And semiconductors are critical to advanced technology and frankly, the advanced economies of our countries. So I think it's going very well. The Prime Minister's office and the government of India have been very, aggressive in courting these companies, in facilitating them, in seeing what they need in order to establish supply chain elements in India. And the announcements of the joint statement are very promising. So, and there's more of it that's been coming. If you look at US IBC companies that are now involved in electronics manufacturing in India, this is a sweeping and transformative moment for India. And I think India is right at that point where China was, frankly, at 1998, 1999, 2000, where you could see absolute acceleration for the next 20 years. India is already the largest, the fastest growing large economy on the planet. And I think that could be the case for 20 more years if they have clear leadership, if they have efficiencies in administration, ease of doing business, and frankly, that focus on bringing in the FDI that can power the country. And so sustained reform is necessary, including in the financial sector, in order to enable that inflow of FDI in the trillions of dollars. But I think if India gets it right, India could be a 20 or even more $30 trillion economy over the course of this century.
Yeah. A final question. There was a lot of anticipation over here that on Republic Day, President Biden would be available as the chief guest. There was a request, an invitation rather, which was sent out across. The U.S. ambassador over here also spoke about that. In some quarters, there would be a sense of disappointment that the president couldn't make it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, both India and the United States are going into national elections in 2024. And, you know, in your country and in ours, these are all-consuming affairs. And a lot is riding on these things. Elections have real consequences, and the voters, of course, make a very careful choice. I think, and I can't speak for the president, I can't speak for the U.S. government, but I think that the fact that there is so much looming on the domestic front in the United States and in India, frankly means that because 2023 was a high watermark in statecraft at the highest levels between our two countries, I think 2024 is actually going to be an opportunity for more people-to-people, business-to-business, state-to-state engagement between our two great democracies. So I'm not too worried about it. I mean, this sort of thing happens all the time where scheduling conflicts come up or other logic drives things. And I do think that the domestic election logic in both countries is going to be preoccupying for many months to come. But when you look at the track record of accomplishment in 2023, we're riding high. Life is great. Our companies are happy. US IBC is booming. Our countries are booming. We are the envy of the world in terms of our strength and resilience. We have our problems, but because we're democracies, we can get through them and fix them in a forthright manner. So I'm feeling very optimistic about 2024 and beyond.
All right, Atul Keshav, thank you very much for speaking to us. Wonderful speaking to you as always. You help navigate the entire process of the relationship between the two sides. It was a relationship where there was so much left to be done, but now perhaps we are well past some of those differences and we can look forward to working together very closely in the future. Thanks very much indeed.
Ye hamara dharam sharam hai.
All right, Atul, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thanks very much indeed.